Everyone, welcome back to one of my biggest rankings yet. I think it's a little shorter than the Hitchcock ranking, but Ingmar Bergman. Obviously one of the greatest directors ever. And through my watch list, through my I put every film he's ever done on there. And most of them, I honestly, especially the first two rows, I would say, except for a couple. Don't plan on rewatching them. It's more like a one and done, just to say I've seen them all. But so many classics here. I was thinking about starting like a physical movie collection, which I have them all digitally, so it's kind of a waste of money. I don't know. I think there's fun to collecting. That's why I have my book collection, my Stephen King first edition collection that I'm doing almost done with, and then I have my record collection that I'll show off someday. My camera on my phone is broken, so that video was put on halt. But let's start from the beginning. His first film, Crisis. Wasn't a huge fan of a lot of his early stuff. I'll be honest, the first movie from him that I actually liked, which on Letterboxd you could press the like button, it was all the way in the second row, Seventh Seal. So, we're going through ones I don't necessarily like, but some of them I can appreciate. This one's definitely going into the Mets here, because even Bergman at his lowest point is still good. It Rains on Our Love. Did I say that? Well, I would put a little below Crisis. I just don't like his early ones. They're just... first of all, his style isn't as developed as... when we get to like Persona or Scenes from Marriage or Fanny and Alexander, stuff like that. His major releases. I don't know, his early ones... pretty boring, too, if I have to say. That's probably the only problem I have with most of Bergman's stuff, is it's really slow. It's all dialogue driven, and I think there's an art to that. And I think at its best, I do like it, but when it's like at its worst, it's very boring. A Ship to India. I don't know. This one's in the trash here. Couldn't get into it. Music in Darkness. It's decent for an early Bergman film. I still would not put it... Crisis I'll have a little bit above, because it is the debut, and it's good for a debut. Port of Call. Port of Call, I'll put it top of the Mets here. Prison. This one's about a movie director who's approached by his old math teacher with a great movie idea. The devil declares that the earth is hell. The director rejects the idea, but subsequent events in his life of a writer, the friend of a director, and a young prostitute he loves seem to prove the math teacher's ideas. Now, I really like the concept of this. Is it great? Should I put it in the great tier? Sure. It'll be near the bottom, because it is still an earlier work here, but I think the concept alone something, and it's one of his more interesting early works. Thirst. Not a huge fan of Thirst or To Joy. It's like, really? Did we need To Joy? And then here, this is what I believe is Ingmar Bergman's worst. Now, we're not doing his television plays. That would just be too convoluted, and some of those are like tougher to find. So we're just doing his films. I believe this is his worst. 1950s, this can't happen here. It's just like, it doesn't feel like Bergman, really. Summer Interlude. Now, this is a popular one. Some people state it's the start of like his classic era. I think it's a well-made movie, and you could say that about 99% of his movies. You can't say that about his television movies. A lot of those have pretty bad production value. But Summer Interlude, I'll definitely put in the great tier. Waiting Women. this might be top of the Mets here for me. I couldn't get into it. I could see why some people would like it because just his shots and his screenwriting. He writes all his movies, and I don't know. I feel like you have to be on the same wavelength of him, and that's for a lot of directors too. Summer with Monica, that's a classic. I'm not a huge fan of his early works like this, but I could appreciate them. Sawdust and Tinsel. Now, when I first saw this one, the promo image on Letterboxd is a clown with a gun to his head. So I thought, this is where Bergman gets awesome. Somehow he made that boring. But it's the complicated relationships between a circus ringmaster and his estranged wife and his lover. So it's I don't know. I feel like that's every Bergman movie, a complicated relationship. You could describe them all with that. But I will put it in the great tier because on reevaluation, it's well made. Even though I couldn't get into it, I still think it qualifies to be one of his greater films. A Lesson in Love, it's decent, but definitely not one of his best. Kind of blends together. If I ever do an Ozu ranking, Yasujiro Ozu, a lot of great films, but they all blend together. So ranking them, it's like, did that happen in that one or that one? And in the end, it doesn't make a difference because all his films are great. But I don't know. A Lesson in Love will be. Sorry, it's gonna go Mets here. Dreams again. It's a Bergman movie. It's not exciting. Nothing too much happens. But they explore the characters and the emotions and the relationships. And some people really like that. I'm not the biggest fan, but whatever. Smiles of a Summer Night. Some people like this one. I'm not a fan. I'm not going to get too deep into all these movies because I do want to finish it in the hour so I could record my other videos. And I'm not going to rewatch any of these Mets tier ones. So in the end, I just don't care. I just rank them to rank them. Now here we go. The true film. Seventh Seal, baby. So this guy returned, and this is a famous kind of opening here. This night, I believe. And he's on a beach, right? All of a sudden, he sees this guy in all black. Death. It's literally death. He's confronting death, and they play a game of chess. And, it's always an iconic scene. And it's a pretty awesome plot. He challenges death to a chess match for his life. Tormented by the belief that God does not exist, Block sets off on a journey, meeting up with traveling players Juff and his wife Mia, and becoming determined to evade death long enough to commit one redemptive act while he still lives. So it was pretty interesting. Max von Sydow played the main character Block, and he actually died in 2020. He's been in a ton of stuff. Here's what he's been in: Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Shutter Island, The Exorcist, Minority Report, obviously Seventh Seal, but Wild Strawberries and Winter Light and Through Glass Darkly, all Bergman movies. Dune, David Lynch Dune, Ghostbusters 2, Woody Allen's Hannah and Her Sisters. Now, Woody Allen, probably the biggest fan of Ingmar Bergman. There's references to him in all his movies. But yeah, check out Seventh Seal. I believe it's all on YouTube too. Wild Strawberries, honestly, it's even better. This one brought me to tears. I'll be honest with you. I shouldn't say brought me to tears. Brought me to one tear. I think this is another masterpiece from Bergman here, and 2 in a row, really strong. Did Seventh Seal come out in 1957? Same year. 2 masterpieces in the same year. That's like Spielberg in 1993. But possibly even better, maybe. Yeah, so Wild Strawberries, really stellar film here. It's about old guy, right? And is basically he's looking back on his entire life and he's like, what's the point? What's the point, right? And he explores love and loss and everything, and just excellently made. And I felt it more than Seventh Seal. Seventh Seal, great movie, iconic shots, iconic everything, but you really feel Wild Strawberries. Then he follows it up with Brink of Life, which is pretty good, actually. Here's the plot. Set in a hospital where three women meet either because they have been through an abortion or are due to give birth. So it really explores a common Bergman theme, especially in his early years, and later years too, but just of life and human relationships to each other. And this is, it's a great comparison between how fast an infant, someone who hasn't even born, can already be dead, not experience life, and then on the other hand, someone, obviously the miracle of giving birth to life. So it really explores between that. And I think it does really well, so I'll put it in the gray tier in between there. Rabies. This is a very odd one from Bergman here. A relay race of scenes from human life depicts the human character's inferior traits are spreading like disease. The person who gets rejected takes it out on someone else. It's pretty crazy here. Not a huge fan of Rabies. I don't know. I guess I'll put it in the trash tier. For Bergman, I think it is trash tier. Next we have The Magician, which I expected to like more than I did. On real valuation, maybe it'll be a little better. But for me, it's going to be... Well, you know what? I think maybe I'll move to the bottom of the grade tier. I have to reevaluate it because it's got a high ranking on here. I didn't like it. But I didn't think it was bad either. Kind of in the middle. But I know there are a lot of people who do like it. So what I'll do is I'll put it. I wish I had a spot in between the great and mad tier, but I think on rewatch maybe I'll think it's great. So I'll give the benefit of the doubt here. The Storm. Now, this is a forgotten one, because I forgot about it. Wait, sorry. Yeah, this one is not one of his better ones, and you could tell how popular it is based on how many people have seen it on Letterboxd. And I'm looking at 100. I'm one of the 121 people who've seen it. And this is actually my bad. This is actually a TV production. Now, when I was looking at the TV productions, I was looking at his ones he made after Fanny and Alexander. I actually didn't even realize he made any before that, but I guess this one is. But it's going in... Yeah, it'll go in the Met tier. It'll go... Well, it's TV. I'll put it top of the trash tier. That's the thing about his TV movies. I didn't even mean to have it. I watched it. Honestly, didn't know. I thought he just had, I don't know, maybe a lower budget that day. I don't know. But honestly, none of his movies are actually terrible bad. So putting it in the trash tier doesn't mean anything. The Virgin Spring. This is another good one. I'm not a huge fan of the religious side of Bergman, which he sometimes explores. This one, devout Christians Tor and Moretta send their only daughter, the virginal Karen, and their foster daughter, the unrepentant Injiri, to deliver candles to a distant church. On their way through the woods, the girls encounter a group of savage goat herders who brutally rape and murder Karen as Injiri remains hidden. When the killers unwittingly seek refuge in the farmhouse of Tor and Moretta, Tor plots her fitting revenge. So that revenge plot is interesting, but I'm just not a huge fan of the setting. For me, setting makes a movie. So for me, this is Met tier. Others might say it's great. For me, that's why I can't get into a lot of westerns. They just aren't big enough for the two of us. It's like I feel like it's the same thing every time. I just can't stand it. The Devil's Eye. It's actually underrated. Here, the devil has a sty in his eye, caused by the purity of the vicar's daughter. To get rid of it, he sends Don Juan up from hell to seduce the 20-year-old Brit Marion, robber of her virginity and belief in love. It's pretty crazy. And then the guy from hell's like redeemed. I don't know. It's pretty awesome. Just kidding. It's gonna be Met tier for me. But it actually, I'll put it top of the Met tier because I did like it more than the other ones. Next is Through a Glass Darkly, a classic. That'll be in the great tier. Honestly, it's better than Summer Interlude. And this is one Bergman's really getting good at the shot composition and a lot of the technical stuff he perfected around this era in the '60s. And he shoots people's faces the best. You could probably find it on YouTube, like Ingmar Bergman face compilation. But stuff like Persona, like, it's mesmerizing. Next is Winter Light. I think even better. Even better. He had definitely had a peak in '57 here, then went downhill a little, but he's rising back up, and he's a couple away from his greatest work of art here. Now we have The Silence, which is... It's good. It's good. For me, it's going to be Met tier, but others might find it great. I don't know. All These Women. This might be a TV one that I didn't realize was TV. I don't know. This is his first color film, technically, and it's definitely not one of his better ones. It's just a little sloppy for Bergman. Bergman's not really sloppy, but that I don't know. Persona, his most famous movie, his first collaboration with one of my favorite actresses of all time, Liv Ullmann. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. Do I recommend it to start with Bergman? Actually, I don't know if I would. It's him at his most experimental also. Like, watch that opening. And you might say, well, I don't like this stuff, so I'm not going to watch any other Bergman. But most of his films are not like that at all. This is a very unique one in his catalog, and that's, for me, what puts it at the top. I love the experimental aspects of it, and the kind of confusing, thought-provoking story and performances. It makes you question, and a lot of these movies, are they're thought-provoking, but they're not on the same level where you're like, what's going on? So Persona is a timeless classic, and I do recommend it. I actually recommend Wild Strawberries to start. I believe there's like a dream sequence that's a little experimental, but stuff like Wild Strawberries, really more down to earth. Well, Persona's down at its core, it's down to earth. Hour of the Wolf. I enjoyed this one. It's his only true horror movie, and I think it's good now. This one has his two, main actors, Max von Sydow and Liv Ullmann. Now, anything he does with Ullmann, I'm a fan of. Let me tell you that, because I think she's just incredible. So this one's going to be the top of the great tier. And Shame, even better than that. Hour of the Wolf has a bit of a weird plot, but this one. I believe the last in the trilogy. Where was Passion Vanna filmed? I don't know. There's this island that he filmed Persona on. He filmed Hour of the Wolf on, and I know he filmed Shame on. And those are awesome. This one, like, the couple is running from a war, and I don't know. It's pretty awesome. And obviously Bergman, one of the greatest screenwriters of all time, in terms of writing. I don't know, he captures the human element so amazingly. A lot of writers write and it sounds like movie characters talking. These sound like real people opening up. And with actors like Max von Sydow and Liv Ullmann, you really see that. The Right. More of a forgotten one. This might be a television production, honestly. Maybe not. I don't think so. But it's definitely a very unique one. It's in the style it's shot in, or I guess the story. It's unique too. For me, it's gonna be Mentir though. I couldn't get into it. It's unique, but doesn't make it good. Now here we go. The true film, Passion of Anna. Another pretty incredible performance by Liv Ullmann here. And this is his true first color. Technically not, but it is his first true color. Not everything is amazing in it. I gave it like I gave it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd, if you want to know my ranking. But I'll put it right here, because I really love his work with Liv Ullmann. Next we have The Touch. Pretty unique movie here. A little bit forgotten about, I feel like. But it's fine. For me, it's gonna be Mentir. Nothing truly amazing in it. But now here we go. Cries and Whispers. I think this is another masterpiece. Bergman does have a decent amount of masterpieces. Now, so I would put it in the God tier. Honestly, I would not put it better than Seventh Seal. Maybe on rewatch. I will. But for now, I wouldn't say so. Scenes from a Marriage. I love Scenes from a Marriage. I'll put it below Persona, because Persona is like, bum, ba-da-dum. Like, that's his standout masterpiece. But Scenes from a Marriage is 5 hours long, and it's two characters in a room talking. And that, most of his movies are two characters in a room talking, but this is 5 hours, and you're like, how can that be good, right? Now, it's split into, like 5 or 6 parts. And it's really just a character study of this couple, Scenes from a Marriage, and explores their relationship, evolving, devolving, and for me, it's amazing what he does and what he does as a director and a screenwriter here. And obviously the performances are stellar, and the story's stellar, and these are probably the most developed characters in cinema, because how much time we just have to see them, and it's kind of like a fly on a wall, and that's a lot of Bergman's movies. They're very down to earth, and it's very fly on a wall-esque. So I think it's another masterpiece from the master himself, Bergman. Now we have The Magic Flute, which is a unique one in the catalog of Bergman, because it's not something that he really just sat down and wrote. It's, I guess he is the writer on the film, but, I mean, come on. It's an opera. It's a Mozart opera that he visualizes, and I'll be honest, visually, the movie's great. It's Bergman. I'm not an opera fan. I can't get into operas. I watched one recently, and again, the visual, I forget what it's called now, but it's from like the 20s or 30s, and visually it was great. Well, it might have actually been from the 40s, because there may have been color. But honestly, couldn't get really into it. So for me, it's going to be Mentir. It's going to be near the... I just could not get into it. Maybe above his debut, Crisis, because visually it is good, but I don't know. Now let's talk Face to Face. One of Liv Ullmann's best performances. I mean, she's on the poster twice, so she better be good if she's on there twice. And she really delivers. Let me... Okay. So let's see. Face to Face, I'll read the plot description. Dr. Jenny Itkinson is a psychiatrist whose temporary position at a mental hospital offers only modest responsibilities. With her husband out of the country for a seminar and her daughter at camp, Jenny moves in with her grandparents, expecting a relaxing few months. But it isn't long before unpleasant memories of her childhood, the sudden appearance of strange apparitions, and a near rape push this otherwise stable woman to the very edge of sanity. Now, what makes a great actor, and most great actors actually have a movie like this, it's surprisingly common, is when they start the movie normal and they slowly delve into insanity. And Liv Ullmann is splendid here. And what's other like that? Robert De Niro has some. I don't know, Travis Bickle. He was always a little crazy. And he's never truly crazy, though. I don't know. Maybe there's less than I think. But Face to Face for me, definitely in the great tier. Honestly, might be top of the great tier for me. I liked it a lot. Now we have slightly forgotten one, the Serpent's Egg. It's Bergman. It's a Bergman film. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Mostly just dialogue, and I couldn't get into this one. Either if you're into it, then you'll like it. But if you don't really care about the character as much, you're not going to like the characters talking for 2 hours. Autumn Sonata. Autumn Sonata for me is one of Bergman's best works, and a lot of it is because of the amazing performances by probably two top 5 actresses of all time. We have Liv Ullmann, obviously. She's in most of them. And now we have Ingrid Bergman's final film. Arguably the greatest actress ever. Casablanca, Notorious, Spellbound, Gaslight, her trilogy with Rossellini. She has an actor credit for Space Jam 2, A New Legacy. Now, I'm sure that'll go down as definitely her best movie. Don't know how she even, I guess, archive footage. But for me, masterpiece. Honestly, I like it better than Seventh Seal. Now, maybe it's because, I have a bit of a bias because 2 of my favorite actresses are in it. And maybe upon reevaluation, Seventh Seal will move up a little bit, but I still consider it a masterpiece. What do you want me to do here? But I love Autumn Sonata. Now we have From the Life of the Marionettes. A bit of a forgotten one, but it is good. But again, for Bergman, good is, I don't know, it didn't stand out to me as anything amazing. So it's going to be, I'll put it below The Silence, but above Port of Call. Now, going into the 80s, Bergman was almost at the end of his career. Well, kind of. End of his film career, not at the end of his television career. But we have one called After the Rehearsal. It's decent. It's decent. But I would not say it's one of his best. So, for me, a little bit above Thirst. But I wouldn't put it above The Right. Now, here we go. The true film, Fanny and Alexander. Did you think Scenes from Marriage was a little long? 5 hours? Try 6. But Fanny and Alexander is never boring. It tells an amazing story. And, it's another one, it's a bit of an unreliable narrator in Kid Alexander. And we just explored this family, pretty much, and their time, and it's very down to earth, and visually, it's probably, other than Persona, maybe his best, but especially the use of color. Not on par with Cries and Whispers, but up there. It's a massive movie. And it's the dialogue. It's the writing from Ingmar Bergman that really takes you in this, I don't know, he just writes characters more realistically than anyone else. Seriously. I mean, you can't name a director that writes more realistic, because it feels like it's real, and, it's a masterpiece in every sense of the word. Now, I'm not covering his TV plays, and this is one that was supposed to be a made-for-TV movie that got a theater release in 1997, 13 years after Fanny. Technically 15, because it was originally released in 82, but another version was released in 84. This one, not that good. It's going to be in the Met tier. Whatever. Now we go to his final film from 2003, Saraband. Now this returns. Now if you're not a fan of Scenes from a Marriage, you're not going to like this movie because this returns to those two characters later on in their life. But I really enjoyed it, and this was in my original watch list. And seeing Liv Ullmann back, I haven't seen a Liv Ullmann movie since like the 70s by this point. And seeing her back and Erland Josephson back, it was really great. And I think it's obviously not as good as the original, but I would put it honestly in the great tier, maybe a little bit below Passion of Anna. So yeah, it took a while, but I ranked all of them. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Tell me what you think. Or don't. I don't care. There will be a Fincher ranking and there will be a Nolan ranking coming up, and they should be much shorter than this.